Take a look at this image. China now readying their war footing with massive new reinforced hangars on the disputed islands there in the South China Sea. The satellite photographs here, taken in late July, show that China appears to have built reinforced aircraft hangars on its holdings in the disputed South China Sea islands. Now, according to a Washington-based research group, they state the hangars on Fiery Cross and Subi and Mischief reefs in the Spratly Islands have room for fighter jets from the Chinese Air Force. That's according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies. They stated after they reviewed the photographs. More news out of the South China Sea. We recently reported that Vietnam has moved missile launchers into the Spratly Island chain. Now Beijing, listen to this, they've installed supersonic missiles on the South China Sea's deadliest destroyer. According to Sputnik News, they are reporting this terrifying fact that the upgraded combat features on board of the flagship South China Sea fleet are apparently impressing Western defense analysts. They're stating that Beijing is now threatening to aggressively defend the disputed territories. They're stating here that China has completed a major weapons upgrade for their Shenzhen destroyer, which will return to operations with the People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN, fleet in the South China Sea as tensions continue to erupt in the region.
International Army Games 2016 were held in Russia. The event featured competitions in 23 disciplines. A total of 121 teams from 19 countries took part in the games, which were monitored by international observers. Army Games were held within the boundaries of 3 military districts of Russia, where participants showed off their military hardware and prowess in a series of Olympic-style competitions.
We have long been preparing for these games. I won the first place in the individual race.
The final day of Army 2016 competitions were held on Alabina Polygon outside Moscow. The teams from Russia, Kazakhstan, China, Iran and Belarus beat out finalists from 15 other countries in Suvorov onslaught and tank biathlon.
Iranians, like the rest, are great. They have tried hard and made their way into the finals. Their performance shows positive progress.
It's encouraging to see so many different countries, including those from the Muslim world, taking part in the games.
Russia became the indisputable champion by the number of gold medals. The second place went to Kazakhstan and the third to China.
With this visit, we achieved a higher strategic cooperation, a so-called cooperative council on a higher level, and we will have more meetings at this level in the near future. And as you know, there was an incident in the past. After November the 24th, 2015, when Turkey shut down a Russian fighter jet in Syrian airspace, we entered a deplorable phase for both the Turkish and the Russian public. We wanted to apologize for that and usher in a new phase of relations with Russia. With regards to the NATO, there aren't any problems today, but the NATO has let Turkey down in terms of Syria. Rockets are flying from Syria into Turkey, and they are launched towards Turkey. When will the NATO say, "We are here and we stand with Turkey"? That has not happened. There will be corridors created so that we can bring in humanitarian aid. Russia will support this and will convince the Syrian government. We'll solve the problem that way.
Now, the United Nations Security Council has approved a resolution for the deployment of an additional 4,000 troops to South Sudan.
With a strong belief.
A U.S. draft resolution was adopted with 11 votes in favor and 4 abstentions by Russia, China, Egypt, and Venezuela. More robust resolution that is allows peacekeepers more power. South Sudan has rejected the UN resolution and says it will not cooperate with the United Nations. Now, it had earlier agreed to accept extra troops as a separate force from the regional IGAD bloc, but not under the mandate of the UN. The government's position raises the possibility of clashes between the Blue Helmets and the country's armed forces. The resolution threatens to impose an arms embargo if the government blocks the deployment.
US-backed forces have seized full control of the northern Syrian city of Manbij near the Turkish border after driving out the militant group ISIL.
Finally free from the stranglehold of ISIL, the people of Manbij made no effort to hide their emotions and their gratitude.
May God salute you. You are our children. You are our heroes. You are the blood of our hearts. You are our eyes. Get out, ISIL. Go.
I feel happiness. I feel joy. It's like a dream. I am dreaming. I can't believe it. I just can't. Things I saw, no one saw.
It took 73 days for an alliance of Kurdish and Arab fighters under the banner of the SDF, or Syrian Democratic Forces, to drive ISIL out of Manbij. As its residents filled the streets, this man pointed out Ship Circle. It's here, he says, ISIL fighters carried out public executions, including beheadings. Meanwhile, others shaved and smoked, activities banned under ISIL's strict interpretation of Islamic law. Manbij itself is not a very big city, but its positioning close to the Euphrates River in the north has made it a key supply route stop between Turkey and Raqqa, the Syrian city ISIL considers the capital of its so-called caliphate. Many ISIL fighters and weapons coming in and out of Syria have passed through Manbij. Its loss marks a major setback for the group. Human rights monitors say that around 500 vehicles containing ISIL fighters and their hostages were seen fleeing Manbij, north towards Jarablus, a town still held by the group.
Moving on now, the number of Britons who leave the country to fight alongside extremist groups is on the rise. An estimated 850 Britons have reportedly joined the ranks of Daesh or other terrorist groups so far. In January, the British government put the figure at about 800. Hundreds of others have been stopped before leaving the UK or during passage through Turkey, which is the main access route. Most of them are thought to have been under the age of 30. According to reports, around 100 of the British recruits have been killed in fighting. Many of the militants joining terrorist groups in Syria and Iraq come from European countries.
Newspaper Bild reported on Saturday Chancellor Angela Merkel has invited executives from some of Germany's biggest listed companies to attend a summit next month, where she will urge them to hire more refugees. More than 1 million migrants flooded into Germany last year. Reducing their dependence on the state and compensating for labor shortages as the workforce ages, the government wants to get as many as possible into the job market. Bild reported that Merkel will push reluctant German companies to offer more traineeships and positions to refugees. Large companies have been criticized for doing little to help integrate the refugees into the thriving job market. One criticism by companies is that most of the new arrivals lack the German language skills and the education required for a job.
Start with breaking news too, because at least 6 people have been reportedly injured after a man attacked passengers with a knife on a train in eastern Switzerland. Well, for more details, we can cross live now to our Europe correspondent, Peter Oliver.
Yeah, we're finding out more information about what happened in the St. Gallen region of Switzerland. A train that was approaching the station in the town of Zales when a man who's been described by the police as a 27-year-old Swiss national doused himself and parts of the train carriage in a flammable liquid and set fire to that before launching on what must have been a frenzied and a very dramatic knife attack against passengers on board the train. Now, he's been taken into custody as well as been in hospital receiving treatment, but he also left 6 people needing medical treatment in hospital for injuries caused by the knife as well as burns. Now, those people have been described by authorities as a 17-year-old and a 50-year-old man, 3 women aged 17, 34 and 43, and a 6-year-old child. It must have been I said a dramatic scene, a truly horrific scene as this man doused himself and, I say, part of the train carriage in this flammable liquid before setting himself on fire and launching this attack. It resulted in a huge police operation. Helicopters were circling overhead and a large number of police responded to the scene to try and take the man into custody and make sure that those that required medical help received it.
Sarah, very little information so far, but we are hearing some reports that police believe the possibility of this being terrorism is very far-fetched. What can you tell us?
The police just said in an interview that it looks more like a crime out of passion than terrorism, but as all the people who were in that train wagon are injured, there is no proof of that statement yet.
August is traditionally a quiet month in the French capital. It's the time when many Parisians leave the city for their annual vacation. But this year it feels even quieter than normal, and that's because many nervous tourists appear to be steering clear. Last year, nearly 85 million foreign visitors came to France, making it the world's top tourist destination. But following a string of deadly terror attacks, France may struggle to cling on to that top spot. In the week following last month's terrorist massacre in the south of France, the number of flights booked to Nice plummeted by more than half. And things are not looking too rosy for the rest of the summer, with international flights to France down by 20% in August and September. Camouflaged soldiers armed with assault rifles are highly visible around tourist sites. There are 10,000 troops deployed across the country. They're meant to reassure the tourists, but they are also a reminder of how real the terror threat is. And it's not just France that's suffering. Hotel chains, airlines and tour operators have also reported a downturn in business in Germany and Belgium following terror attacks there.
A man repairs a damaged wall in the Thai resort town of Hua Hin. A series of bombs here and elsewhere in the country since Thursday have left 4 dead and dozens wounded. The area is usually bustling with tourists, but was relatively quiet on Saturday. As one of the country's only growth sectors, tourism could be affected by the bombings. Vendors say they're worried. I'm skeptical about what's next, this man said. The economy is already down. Normally, there's lots of Chinese, Westerners, and Thais on the beach, said this man who works as a horse rental vendor. Police and security analysts say the bombs appear to be more of a scare tactic than for causing widespread death. Thailand is hoping to reach a target of 32 million visitors this year, although embassies have warned citizens to stay vigilant because there could be more attacks.
Gunshots were fired at the Crabtree Valley Mall in Raleigh, North Carolina on Saturday, but no casualties were reported. The mall went into lockdown after news of the shooting. A police dispatcher said it was unclear what prompted the shooting or whether there was more than one shooter involved. According to local news reports, the gunshots were fired around 2:30 p.m. near the mall's food court. One witness said she heard at least 10 gunshots, maybe more.
Fireworks set off inside the Staten Island Mall this afternoon, frightening shoppers and prompting false reports of an active shooter. Police responded outside the new Springville complex as people were evacuated. We're told one woman was cut in the arm during the frantic scene, but her injury wasn't serious. A mall employee described how terrified shoppers ran for cover.
Yeah, it was panicking. You know, you turn around, you see everybody running, people falling to the floor, screaming. And cops coming in, they got the canines in there right now trying to figure out what's going on. So, yeah, it's pretty scary if you ask me.
Police say the fireworks went off near the food court. No arrests have been made.
New York City police say an imam and another man were both fatally shot while walking in Queens on Saturday.
They were approached from behind by what witnesses and video evidence shows: a male with a medium complexion, dark-colored polo-style shirt and shorts.
55-year-old Imam Maulama Kanji and 64-year-old Thara Uddin were shot as they were walking away from Al Furqan Jami Mosque. The gunmen fled the scene immediately. Both victims were taken to a nearby hospital before they died of their injuries. No arrests have been made, and police say they don't know the motive for the shooting yet. But the mosque's community, which is made up mostly of Bangladeshi immigrants, say they fear the men were targeted for their faith.
We feel really insecure and unsafe in a moment like this. It's really threatening to us, threatening to our future.
Security camera video shows the victim walking down the side of the road early on Wednesday, when he's suddenly hit from behind by a speeding truck. The driver stops, gets out of the vehicle, but instead of going to aid the injured man, he checks his truck for any damage and then drives away. Pedestrians and cars passed by, either unaware or indifferent to the man who lay bleeding on the side of the road. After some 30 minutes, a rickshaw driver pulled over, but instead of helping, he picks up the man's mobile phone and then just leaves. It was 90 minutes before police were finally called to the scene.
Then immediately we took him to hospital where he was declared broad dead.
Police were able to track down the truck driver from the video. He's been arrested according to local media. Delhi's transport minister says he's disheartened that no one came forward to help.
People are scared. They think that helping someone could embroil them in a legal case. I would like to tell everybody that the Supreme Court has ordered that no such person will be questioned or bothered in any way by police.
5 people in upstate New York were struck by lightning on Friday.
There was actually smoke coming off one of the guys.
The people were gathered around a park bench by a tree during a storm in Poughkeepsie. One of the people struck died Saturday morning from his injuries. 2 more are in critical condition. Earlier this week, 2 more people were struck by lightning in another town in upstate New York. They were found dead under a tree in a cemetery on Wednesday. The toxicology report on the official cause of death is still pending.
Good evening, I'm Rena 9, and at least 2 people are dead as historic floods slam the Deep South. Over 1.5 feet of rain has fallen in parts of Louisiana, which is under a state of emergency. More than 1,000 have been rescued. There's also flooding in Mississippi and Alabama.
Do you have something? Yeah. Rescue crews spent the day searching for people who may have been swept away in the floodwaters. They came across this car just in time, saving a woman and her dog from drowning. I got you, dog. Oh! National Guardsmen on boats, trucks, and helicopters have helped more than 1,000 stranded pets and people. Governor John Bell Edwards says many who should have evacuated did not. Some are risking their lives on flooded roads.
It really doesn't take much depth of the water if it's moving quickly to wash your vehicle off the road.
Among the dead, a 68-year-old man who drowned while trying to escape the rising waters.
Me and my son and another guy tried to get him, but it was too late.
To